Hello, and welcome to Lit by Moonlight, where it's not a phase to suddenly feel like you've taken them all for granted all of these years. Today, we are reviewing HBO's The Last of Us with Episode 7, Left Behind.
I kind of feel like I want to go to the mall all of a sudden after watching this episode.
Literally same.
I'll talk about that more later, but the need to be at the mall has never been greater.
Yeah.
But not like today's malls, like the malls of the...
Like the 80s.
Yeah, in the 90s. In this episode, as Ellie is debating how to bring Joel back from the brink of death, we get to know her before she's infected, attending Fedra School in the QZ. Ellie's closest friend and crush is Riley, who has recently joined the Fireflies. Riley has planned an entire night for Ellie, showing her the 5 wonders of the closed-off mall. While Ellie and Riley are spending time together having fun and admitting their true feelings for one another, one single infected remains in the mall. When it finds Ellie and Riley, it bites them both. Riley tells Ellie that they will keep on for as long as they can together, as they both expect to be turned at some point into infected. Ellie keeps this memory with her in the present as she decides to patch up Joel with a needle and thread.
I'm Caitlin, and every single TikTok on my FYP is Pedro Pascal, and I am okay with that.
Yeah, I feel like that's the place to be.
I've never had such a catered and single-minded FYP in my entire TikTok career.
The TikTok algorithm said, we'll curate this for you.
They are, and I'm okay with that.
I'm Emberlyn, and I'm your bad Cinderella.
You're bad Cinderella.
I'm your bad Cinderella.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, Caitlin,
Yeah.
what hooked you when it comes to this episode, when it comes to Left Behind?
And the pain. What immediately hooked me was I liked seeing the immediate aftermath of Ellie getting Joel to a safe spot after he was stabbed by a bat last episode. I thought that was really cool to see because you don't really get that time in the game. It just kind of jumps ahead forward in time. But I really liked seeing that, and then how that paralleled Ellie not wanting to leave Joel behind like she had to do with Riley I thought was a really good way to tell that story. I just really liked how huge of an impact that had on her and how she's thinking of that in like the few moments that we had of her and Joel this episode. So that was really cool to see how they intertwined all that together.
Yeah, because these are the people that Ellie loves most in the world. So This is like her comparative moment is when, you know, like things are down to the wire with Joel. That's who she's thinking of. It's really sweet.
Yeah. What about you?
I don't even know. Like, I feel like in the first 2 seconds of the episode, you kind of get a remnant of the last episode of Joel's insecurity about losing Ellie or failing Ellie, and he tells her to leave him in like the first like 2 seconds of the episodes. And I just remember being like,
Pain.
like, oh no.
Stop.
And then of course when we first meet Riley, I feel like that was an immersive experience for me because you immediately just, their chemistry in the very moment that they're together is off the wall. They have this great height difference. They have this great banter with each other. My partner and I were watching this together, and he turns to me and he goes, they're in love. And he hasn't ever played the game, so he has no reference from before this point of you know who Riley and Ellie are to each other. And I just think that's really funny, and how I think that's really powerful how well Riley and Ellie's relationship translates to the big screen. That's something that someone who has never played the game before would notice right off the cuff. So I love that.
Very well done. I loved how you could just immediately get a sense of what their relationship was like within like the one conversation that they had. It's just like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
like,
they're besties.
We know them.
They're besties, and they're also maybe in love. We love that.
Yes, we love that for them. Did you have a favorite quote?
I liked toward the end of the episode when Riley is talking about her new place with the Fireflies, and she says, I mattered to them, and Ellie says, you mattered to me first. Because Riley is really the only person in Ellie's life while she's in Fedra School. She doesn't have any parents. It doesn't seem like she has very many friends in Fedra School. Riley is her closest friend and also basically this person she loves. So it's such a sweet and soft and also very heartbreaking moment because it's essentially Ellie losing someone who she loves. And we remember in the last episode when Ellie talks a little bit about how everyone in her life has either died or left her when she's fighting with Joel. So this is, I think, just like a wonderfully sad example of that.
Yep. Just pain.
And I have an honorable mention, and that's for when Ellie is talking with the Fedra officer who runs the school, and he says, Bethany's in the infirmary with 15 stitches, Bethany being the girl that Ellie started to fight with in the very beginning of the episode. Though I would argue she didn't really start it. And Ellie goes, good. And I just, Ellie just gives no fucks. She
does
doesn't
not care.
I love her. She's so small. And this is something they talk a lot about in the podcast, is how Bella Ramsey is so small. And yet, I think when you're smaller, people underestimate you. They don't expect as much from you. And yet, here is Ellie able to hold her own, even without Riley around, who is like way taller than her. And I love that. I think that's like a great characteristic. I think Ellie as a character has this feistiness that's so alluring. So I love that we see that come out when she's in Fedra school. Like, she's always just been like this. She's always been that bitch, which I respect.
Yeah, she has.
How about you?
I have a few. A couple were the same as yours with the whole "you matter to me" first. That made me. I was already crying, but that just kind of just made the tears just keep on coming faster.
Yes.
The first one I want to point out is when Riley shows, now that she's been with the Fireflies, that she has a gun, and Ellie immediately is like, "Can I hold your gun?" Because she just had like this the ongoing like fascination. And also just like wanting to have a gun throughout this entire series is just like, it's concerning, but it's also so hilarious because in this world that she lives in, like, she kind of has to have one for protection. And just the insistence with Joel being like, "Can I have one? Hey, I can help you if you give me a gun." And then just the whole like nod to that with Riley of just asking to hold it, and just the way she like cradles it. I don't know. I just thought that was really funny to me. And then I also just really want to give a shout out to "We Can Be All Poetic and Lose Our Minds Together," because that made me lose my mind again. And it hurts because it could have been such a good and poetic ending for the both of them, but the fact that only one of them actually turns is just all the more heartbreaking to think about, like what Ellie had to have gone through like after.
Yeah.
Pain.
Ow. Owie gazowie.
Again, you think we would be used to it by now, but no.
I think it's like, part of me is like, is the show conditioning me to be less sad every time? But I don't think so, because I always like wake up the next morning and I'm like, oh.
Like the shot of Joel like all bundled up with his coat, and he's just like looks like in distress. That's how I wake up every Monday morning. Yeah,
that's how I wake up every Monday morning too. I was supposed to go in the office today, and I just like couldn't get out of bed, and I think that was part of it. Like, if I could have described to the person I was gonna meet for lunch what was exactly going on, I told them that I couldn't get up, which is true, but it's probably also that I was like traumatized from the night before. So
sorry, it's Monday. You know what happens on Sunday nights now.
Sunday nights are my torture nights, my suffering nights. So there's this beautiful scene in this episode where Riley and Ellie are on the carousel, and it's playing like this great, like, I would say like theme park, like ethereal version of Just Like Heaven by The Cure. Which is, oh my gosh, how dare you?
What a choice.
But what is a song that you would like to listen to while you ride a carousel with the love of your life?
So I put two because one, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned on the podcast before, and sometimes I really need to just branch out musically. The first one I put was Something Tells Me by Balin, because the whole chorus is "Something tells me I could fall in love with you," and it's just got like such like a gentle like sound to it, and I just feel like it's just so sweet and like innocent, like for Riley and Ellie's like love between each other. But I also, just for the fact that it kind of like has some sadder undertones, I also added True Blue by Boy Genius.
Oh my god.
So, because I love pain, and just go listen to that song. It's so good. There's something nostalgic about it, but so painful, but also so hopeful because it's like, you're the only person I can be myself with, and it just screamed Ellie and Riley to me.
Wow. Ow. This specific episode does a really good job of bringing nostalgic elements back to life in a way that's so, like, sad. It makes, I think, the viewer feel like they've taken things for granted in their lives, like malls and, I don't know, Mortal Kombat 2.
Yeah.
And that was what inspired my choices. So my first choice was Disney Girls. It's originally by the Beach Boys, but I also love the Mama Cass version just because I love Mama Cass. The song is originally a nostalgic reflection on the early 1950s and the fantasy world of the girls in Walt Disney movies, early 1950s television shows, all of the, I think, and like there's like a list of things in the song, like enjoying lemonade and country shade, Patty Page songs, all like listing all of these different aspects of nostalgia of times past, and how the singer longs for those times because at the specific time that the Beach Boys wrote this song, a lot of kids who were fans of the Beach Boys were being wiped out on drugs, and this was something that he wanted to capture the feeling of with this song. Just this concept that there was a time when people were a little more naive, but perhaps a little healthier, which I think is debatable, but that was kind of Bruce Johnston's vision when he wrote the song. And I felt like it was applicable to this time just because, I mean, in this case, it's the early 2000s and the shopping mall has been wiped out along with pretty much all of society. And this is before shopping malls were kind of murdered by online shopping. So at the time that this happened, I wouldn't say that shopping malls were in their heyday, but they were probably still like
more popular than they are
one of the
now.
more reliable places to shop if you were, a consumer. So I just really like the nostalgia of that. I liked like the childhood innocence that scene evoked. And then the same with Robbers by the 1975. The song begins with this great like theme park music that has haunted me like my entire life. Like whenever I think of it, I'm just like, oh my God. Like it is the definition of nostalgia. It would work really well here, but obviously it doesn't have the same significance that I think like The Cure or the Beach Boys or even Boy Genius would have. So that's the only reason I wouldn't think of it as much, but I just kept hearing that song in my head when I watched that scene. So
nice.
That was another one for me.
I love that. So what character would you share the 5 wonders of the mall with?
Definitely Riley. Yet another character where when we first meet them, we just kind of like love them immediately. Or at least that was the case for me. Riley planned this whole night just for Ellie and got Ellie the pun book, the second edition pun book. And I also think it's important to note that like Riley knows better than anyone that Ellie would have loved Spirit of Halloween. Like when we talk later in the episode about, we asked that question of like, oh, what would Joel and Ellie have missed from now because of the apocalypse? I feel like Spirit of Halloween was right in front of us as an answer, and I never would have thought of that. But it's so obvious, like the memes where we put Spirit of Halloween on like different vacant buildings, like Panic at the Disco. Ellie would have lived for that shit, and so I love that that's something that Riley knew about Ellie. Riley is Ellie's first love and her best friend, and Riley's also got this great passion and drive in her. She's looking for this purpose beyond Fedra school, and she has hope and this expectation that the world could be a different place than what Fedra envisions, even if she's young and she doesn't necessarily understand the power dynamic in the Fireflies. I just think she's an amazing character. Love her, miss her, but I'm not going to talk about that because I can't yet. It's like too raw for me, too soon.
Yeah.
How about you?
I also said Riley. Of course, Riley. I just loved how she, like you said, like had such dreams of a better world and so much love for Ellie. And everything that she showed Ellie just shows how much she knows her. Like Riley knew she'll love the magic of the carousel and the photo
Yeah.
booth and the arcade. Didn't account for the magic moving stairs, but that was just really sweet, a really sweet moment.
Yeah.
And of course, the Halloween store, like she knows her. And it just made me think of when Frank said to Bill, paying attention to things, it's how we show love. And Riley paid attention.
Oh my
Riley paid
God.
attention, yeah, to Ellie, gave her the pun book, gave her a good time, like broke into the coin machine so that because she knew that Ellie was going to want to get into the arcade. She knows her. She paid attention to Ellie. She loves her. And that's love, baby. So I really like seeing those themes from earlier episodes come back. And I also just really want to give a shout out to Ellie in this episode because baby girl needs a hug. Seeing her just giggle and just be a little girl, you know, like with her best friend slash girlfriend. Like it was just so sweet and innocent, and I just loved seeing her so in love with Riley and just so happy with her. And like Riley was the one person that she had at the QZ. And then also seeing her like present time with Joel and her determination of not to lose another person that she loves. Like again, I loved how they kind of paralleled that, where she's just like, no, I'm getting every moment I can with you. We're going to be in this together. I'm not leaving you. And it was so heartbreaking. And I just want her to be safe and warm and happy. That's all I ever want for her.
Let Ellie have a full life
Yeah.
where she is not constantly almost being murdered.
Not
and
constantly
losing someone she
experiencing the
loves.
horrors.
Yeah. So this is a good time, I think, for us to dive into our peaks and valleys for this episode. What is your first peak, Caitlin?
My first peak is the fact that this episode put my waterproof mascara to the test to see if it actually was waterproof, and I can safely say that I started crying when the mall lights came on, a little bit before that too. And I didn't stop at all for the remainder of this episode, and I had no streaks on my face. So shout out to CoverGirl for
Easy breezy beautiful.
Easy breezy beautiful will get you through The Last of Us without any streaks. All that to say, and I know I sound like a broken record, but I just really enjoy that this show can evoke all of the emotions as if it's my first time seeing the story unfold. In fact, I almost feel like everyone probably, even if like you didn't play the game or the DLC or anything, like probably that Riley's not gonna make it because of it's just things that have been mentioned previously, and also we haven't seen her, so like you kind of know that she's not gonna make it. But even that doesn't take away anything from the story. And at this point, it's not even like the new scenes that we get or the story expansion that's making me still interested in the show. I mean, I am so emotionally invested in the story that like I'm not just gonna be like, nah, I'll watch it later. But it's not even just the fact that we're getting new stuff that we didn't get in the game or new ways to explore characters. It's the acting that just really blows me away every single episode. Both Bella Ramsey and Storm Reid were so incredible in this episode, bringing Ellie and Riley's relationship to life. Like you could feel the tension between them, the longing, their years of friendship, however long it's been, and the end when they both got bit was so heartbreaking because, as I've said before, this show is really just emphasizing the fact that Ellie is still a kid.
Yeah.
Or like Sam was just a little kid. Like all of the children in this world are missing out on full lives, and it's just heartbreaking to be reminded that even like I think it's easy to forget that Ellie is only 14 because of how she acts sometimes, but when those moments show where she's just a little baby, like that's how I felt in their end scene of just like these are two little girls who was out there to have a good time, and then it all went to shit so quickly, and now they're gonna die. And it's the fear on their faces, the screaming, the crying, the way they held each other. It was just so heartbreaking, and it just hurt me so much. And I'm just also consistently in awe with how well every actor is able to bring their game counterpart to life in a way that's refreshing but still staying true to the character. And if anyone is still looking at Bella and thinking that they aren't Ellie, then you're just dumb. Because I just thought Bella's acting was incredible this episode, and it made me cry.
Yeah, I mean, the contrast between Riley and Ellie both processing their bites. I think like Riley just kind of sitting stoically and crying, and Ellie like smashing everything in the Halloween store is so like powerful. I felt so connected to Bella Ramsey's character, and I really like can't believe that somebody this young, she's 19, almost 19.
Yeah.
I feel like that's incredible to be able to put on that performance at that age. I couldn't imagine it. Just incredible. My first peak was, and so I want to start this by saying the settings in The Last of Us stay beautiful. Like, beautiful in their own haunting way. Because I don't know if you've ever seen like the videos on TikTok where people, they go, I think it would be called Urban X or Urbex. They go and they explore abandoned areas.
Oh, yeah.
There are a lot of those in the Midwest and in Chicago, namely, and you get to see old movie theaters and old malls. I mean, I think that the creators did an incredible job recreating a mall abandoned in The Last of Us. The mall is insane. Like, in terms of setting, knowing from the podcast the effort that went into creating the mall, into CGIing, and into doing visual effects to ensure that the mall was 2 floors, because the creators wanted to ensure that the mall looked like the malls that we remember.
Yeah, because where they were at was only 1 floor, right? I started listening to the podcast, but I didn't finish it.
Yes, it was just 1 floor, so they went about doing a lot of visual effects to assure that it was like 2 floors. Some of that was done on a sound stage. Really, really cool. If you haven't listened to this week's episode, I really recommend listening to it, because they talk a lot about the VX for the mall and some of their intentions there. But there's just so many smaller details in this episode that stuck out to me. I think the neon lights, both around the mall and in the arcade, the old "be back in 5 minutes" note, the overgrowth. There's just so much, I think, in terms of the setting to take in. It's so fascinating. This is maybe like the 9th time that my partner has turned to me during this watch and said, we are going to get a PlayStation just so we can play this game.
Yes,
we already have an Xbox. We're going to be those people, but it'll all be worth it. But I want to touch base on the fact that there's something about a mall. Like, when you ask yourself, I mean, there's like this history about the mall in the game, but like, why a mall? I think there's this other aspect that really sticks out to me, and that's, I think, the innocence of it all. The mall, I think it's this incredible example of like early 21st century, like Y2K capitalism. Like, this is what, like, when you think of like Mean Girls and Clueless and all of the great chick flicks of the late 90s and early 2000s, you think about the mall. The mall is like a focal point for teenagers during this time, and it's an experience that Riley and Ellie never get to have. So the fact that all this takes place in a mall is like a recapturing of their innocence. And there's a simplicity to the experiences that they have in the mall that I love. Ellie experiencing the escalator for the first time, and it not even being one of the wonders that Riley has planned for Ellie, but just the simplicity of it being so fascinating to Ellie is so, I mean, it's so lovely. In the podcast, I really recommend this week's episode. They talk about how the people who love Ellie show her new things because they know she will be interested in them, and how it's because she has such a strong passion for and interest in the world around her, even going so far as to compare this to when you share something you love with your friend and it's like you're experiencing it all over again for the first time, getting to see them enjoy it. That is, I think, how a lot of us at home maybe felt watching these scenes. Will I be going to the mall sometime this week? Probably. And I talk about this more in my second peek, but there's like, I mean, the girlhood of it all. You talk about this a little bit too in your first peek, Caitlin. I mean, like, they're girls, they're young children, and they're getting to have this experience that I think a lot of us who were growing up in the early 2000s and mid 2000s might have had at the mall, of going on our first date, riding the carousel, taking photos together, going to the arcade, dancing, giggling after they kiss for the first time. There's just something so lovely and innocent about it. And obviously what follows is horrifying, but I think it's wonderful that for a moment we get to pause with them and see them be children.
Yeah.
I've been waiting so long for this episode, and it really delivered just on that front.
Yeah.
I also want to note there's something so incredibly ironic about a Spirit of Halloween. I know it's just a Halloween store, but I am going to say it's a Spirit of Halloween.
Spirit Halloween.
Being mostly intact during the apocalypse. Like,
like, if any store was going to survive, it would be Spirit Halloween.
In a way, isn't everywhere kind of the Spirit of Halloween now if there are zombies involved and everyone's dying? Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
So, Caitlin, what was your second peek?
Kind of bouncing off of your whole love of the setting of the show, that would be my second peek, because, my God, it's just so good. Not even, like, the huge sets. So, like, starting off with the opening shots of the neighborhood that Ellie and Joel are hiding out in, we were watching it, and my dad goes, I feel like I've been here.
Yeah.
Like, we have. Like, we've been there. Like, we've all, like, explored that town and everything. And I'm so impressed that not only are, like, the huge sets, like the mall, the QZ, Boston, and Jackson, like, they're all, like, down to the detail, like, straight from the game, and it's incredible and it's accurate. Right. But even just like the surrounding areas that you don't even have time to explore, but you do in the game, you explore those areas so much. Like the dam that we saw last episode, you spend so much time there in the game, or in this town that they're in, like, you spend a lot of time there exploring and everything. But they're only there for like a split second or like an establishing shot in the show. You still know exactly where you are, and for the people who played it, know exactly where we are. They know the feeling that we're supposed to be having, and it's just so well done. And I'm so amazed by the set designers and everybody involved in it, and just like even just the house and the garage that the horse is standing in, and the basement that Joel is lying on, right down to the mattress that he's on. Like, it's crazy. And I
am very much the horse in the garage.
Yeah, just chilling, not
shaking
not
off ice.
Yeah, shaking off some ice, just like being like everyone else is experiencing horrors, but you're just chilling.
I'm just the horse.
But again, like specifically the mall was incredible, and I can't believe that shot of all the lights coming on was VFX. I was blown away by that. But what really got me was the lighting in that scene and the carousel ride. So like seeing Ellie stare out at the lit up mall was like showing a kid a little magic trick. And like you were saying, like showing someone, like watching someone experience something for the first time, it's also magical. And just like all the blues and the purple fluorescent lighting was beautiful, and it just really added to it. But what made me sob, and I was, again, crying throughout this entire episode, not even exaggeration, was the lighting in the carousel scene was so beautiful and innocent and childlike and romantic all at once, in addition. And then like I feel like the music in that scene was such a good choice, because it was so like childhood innocence, like first love, like all in that one thought and shot. And like the shots of Ellie looking up at Riley help. Like it really emphasized like how they're just babies in a terrible world, and they should be able to go on a ride on a fake horse and spin in circles forever, and go into a photo booth and take pictures and go play in the arcade and play games, but they were robbed of that. And seeing them be able to experience this and just like have these moments together was just so beautiful, and it just made everything hurt so much. So I really loved how well done that scene was, and just how we got to see Ellie just like basically like pining and just looking up at Riley without Riley knowing that she's looking at her. It was beautiful. I loved it so much.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I had a similar second peek. There's this great and I can't believe I'm saying this. There's this great TikTok, but like that's a form of media now. And it's a video that the user, let's see, Gemini Gal 99, hey girl, posted, and it's a picture of a park bench. And you know how people can get decals put on park benches, dedications rather. And this one says, and she posted it, it says, for my lifelong best friend, Judy, from Janice, we were girls together.
Oh.
I have been thinking about that for the past, like, I don't know, 3 days.
Yeah.
And probably will be for the rest of my life because, I mean, we were girls together. I don't know what it is. It's such a simplistic line, and yet I think it contains so much, not just the complexity of female friendship and also the innocence of girlhood and also the love that women share and how unique it is from anything else in the entire world, whether it be in the form of romantic love or friendship or sisterhood. I mean, it just like, I don't want to say, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for this, but I don't want to say men should be jealous, but they should. Because I think as much as I love my romantic partner, there are dynamics I have with the women in my life that I think are incomparable to romantic love. So I don't know. I'm just like, but also I don't know. Like,
okay, I don't know if it's because I'm also a woman who has like so many important women in my life, but I'm just like, I know exactly what you're saying, but I can't put words to it. It's just a deep, deep kind of love.
Yes.
And it's so special.
And I guess I want to amend my earlier statement that like, oh, it's more complex than romantic love. I think that like there are inherently romantic aspects of some of my female friendships that I like adore and that I couldn't imagine recreating with my male partner. So like OMG, like OMG, girls rule. But all of this is just
G-U-R-L-Z.
Yeah.
R-U-L-E, but with like the E is a 3, exclamation point, XD.
Yeah. And the I, the dot in the I in girls is a flower.
Yeah.
Because Y2K, and also why not? Or it's a heart, actually. I lied.
Yeah, it's a heart.
I think, but this is all just to say that I think the contrast between their girlhood, Riley and Ellie's girlhood, and the Firefly Fedra discourse is so striking and tragic because they were girls together. They are girls together. And it's really sad to me, as you said, that in addition to being able to at least have these very like lovely, soft, not simplistic, but like worry-free moments together. And that's another thing that I love that the creators are able to do with The Last of Us is still carve out time for love, still carve out time for light.
Yeah.
Post-apocalypse. There's still this overarching sadness. There's still this sense that like there are complex things that both of them have to deal with that they shouldn't have to deal with at that age. And there's like, I mean, that's relatable. Like there's some relevance to that. I have conversations with my mom sometimes where she is constantly affirming, which I appreciate, but I also feel sad about that. Like this is our generation is growing up with some incredibly complex issues that maybe my mother didn't have to grow up with. And there are a lot of ways that we can't be girls together that our mothers could. So, ow. Like, ow. So, oh my goodness. Like, I don't know. I think that dichotomy was so striking. I really enjoyed that with each moment of joy, with each wonder, because there was wonder there. There was also kind of like an acceptance of conflict. So, I don't know. Ow. What's your valley? I don't even know what to say.
My valley is, again, not even really a valley, but the music placement was perfect and uncalled for throughout this entire episode. During Ellie and Riley's, their first conversation in their bedroom, you can hear on guitar "True Faith" by Lottie Kestner playing.
Oh my God,
which is the whole thing. Fucking Take on Me. Like, oh, God. So, like, that just, it added so many layers to where that comes in, like, later on in the story. Like, if you know, you know, and if you don't, I'm sorry. That her, and, like, all of, like, Ellie's, like, cassette tapes of Aha was, like, really cool to see. Like, her little collection there. And then just the way they keep playing Vanishing Grace, which is from the game soundtrack. They played that a lot in this episode, and it's music that, like, they kind of talk about this on, I think it was last week's episode of the HBO podcast, that they use music as a way to, like, bring out those emotions if you're not going to see it, because it just, I mean, that's just what music does. But, like, there's specific music within the score of The Last of Us that are there in place to remind you of, like, loss or certain feelings. Like, they talked about the music, it's called All Gone, and it plays when Sarah dies, and it played again when Joel thinks he sees her. So, like, you already have that in your head because you're hearing the same music. And I'm not going to spoil anything as to why this music makes me so emotional, but Vanishing Grace has the same idea of, like, it just has a lot of big emotions attached to it. And so whenever they play it, it just adds whatever you're watching on screen that much more emotional and, like, sad, because you're just like, oh, they could have had it all. You know, like, it's a lot, like, a lot of it to me is innocence and wonder and love, but also loss, because it's something that you just can't have, like, that's not attainable in this universe. So the way that they just kept playing that really toyed with my emotions. And then another valley is that where this episode ended was really rude, because that means that everything that hurt me the most while playing the game is going to be happening on my birthday next week.
Aw.
So happy birthday to me. What was your valley?
Well, first, I guess I'll say I love that you talk about the music, because I feel like this is something that also comes up this week. The I've Got You, Babe dance scene, where Etta James is actually the singer. It's not like the Cher version. There's something so, like, wonderful about that, because it's like kind of a fun, happy song, but it's also, like, a little romantic, but it's also, like, not so heavy that it, like, takes away from the moment.
Yeah.
It's like giving them one last moment of joy before things kind of fall apart. I really, really appreciated that. I think that'll go down in my book as one of the more iconic scenes from the episode and from the show. Yeah. So I love that they were able to do that. My valley this week is that this dude was hiding in the American Girl doll store.
I know.
Like,
so get out of there.
What? It's like the fucking American Girl doll store. Like,
listen, those were hard to get as a kid. He just really wanted to get that, you know, that Julie doll.
There's a TikTok trend where people put on those big fluffy marshmallow looking headbands and go, come with me while I get ready to do X, Y, and Z. It's like an influencer thing, parody. I think it'd be really funny if, like, it was, like, I don't know, one of the infected, and he puts on one of those big fluffy marshmallow headbands. He goes, come with me to the American Girl doll store where I'm going to find someone. And he has, like, a really hard time finding someone that looks like him because, you know, he's, like, essentially a mushroom. So I think that would be really funny. But yeah, that's kind of sad funny. That it happened in the American Girl doll store. I feel like the moment I saw the boxes, I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
No, same. Literally same. I was like, hey. And just what another way to just, like, emphasize that, like, that girlhood is just gone. You know?
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah. Yeah.
Like, so many little girls had American Girl dolls or wanted them or just knew of them. And that was such a big thing growing up as a kid. It's just like, which American Girl doll do you have? Which one are you? Like, do you have the books? Do you have all the sets? Like, all of this stuff. And just for, like, what ultimately ends up being Riley and Ellie's undoing is an infected that is hiding in that store. The essence of girlhood is just... ow, what? These creators are too good.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Oh my God. Yeah, I love that too, because I feel like this is a moment you also experience when Ellie and Riley are standing in front of the Victoria's Secret store.
Yeah.
And talking about the lingerie. And Craig and Neil kind of talk about this in the podcast, how like this is the brunt of like what like this is definitely before like recent queer revolutionary movements toward a world where women, like eventual women like Riley and Ellie, would have been able to get married. We're now living, I think, in 2003, which is a very it's not that it's not an incredibly openly queer time, because we exist and we're here in this time as queer people, but like the mass media narrative is pretty heteronormative, and that's why a place like Victoria's Secret is, you know, kind of sitting at the brunt of girlhood. And I think if you were, you know, Caitlin or I, and you were going to the mall in 2003, you would have probably seen, which I remember seeing, like all these beautiful women models in Victoria's Secret clothing, and thought, this is womanhood, this is it, you know. So I love that contrast. Oh my God, this episode's about girlhood. We love that.
Also, speaking of the Victoria's Secret, when Allie like fixes her like appearance in the reflection of that, I don't know, just something about it, I was like, oh. Just like, that's, I don't know, it's just like such a what a girl thing to do, you know. I don't know, with
the lingerie and that the model body behind and the reflection.
While she's also like being like, oh, I'm with a girl that I like, I want her to hopefully like I look okay for her, you know. So I guess that was, I don't know why that was my value. I was just like, God damn it. But also, and this is so funny, because at the beginning of the episode, Vishwas goes, oh, this is a 1 hour episode. I was like, good, that means it'll be long. And it felt like it went by so fast, such that when it cut off at the very end, I like screamed. I was like, no! So did we. We're like, wait, that's it?
It went so fast. It's so unfair.
Did. It's funny that you say mentioning or like checking like how long it is, because ever since that 45-minute episode, every episode since, I'm like, how long is it? How long is it? Like,
how long should I prepare to be disappointed for?
Yeah, because like I want this show to go on forever, but like I know it can't. But I also like, knowing the game, I'm like, all right, how much are we going to fit into this episode? So when I'm like, if it's over 45 minutes, I'm like, good, okay, we're going to have a lot of time. And then those 60 minutes go by and you're like, what? That was 10 seconds. Come back. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Not cool. Not cool.
Not cool.
I think I'll only truly ever be happy when they start making these episodes like 2 hours long.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Like Stranger Things did it.
Come on. Yeah, Stranger Things did do it, and I remember I was there. I used up most of my Friday. We talked about this earlier. It's time to revisit what thing you're the saddest about that Joel and Ellie missed because of the apocalypse this week.
Yeah, so this week, just watching how enthralled with the mall that Ellie was, I think she would have had her little mind blown by an amusement park. And instead of thinking about how sad this episode was and ended, I'm just thinking about like Joel taking Ellie to an amusement park and having the time of their lives. And also Riley is there because she is alive, and also Sarah is there because she is alive.
Everyone lives.
And so are Henry, and so are Sam, and Bill and Frank, even though they probably wouldn't go to an amusement park, but they're there too because they're alive and they're happy.
Every single person who deserves to be alive
Tess
is alive.
Tess is also there.
in this world that Caitlin has created. Your world sounds pretty cool. I feel like
I feel like I
want to go there instead of.
Yeah, you want to go to there?
Yeah, I want to go to there.
Come on over.
It's funny too, because like I feel like this episode has once again reminded us of all the things we take for granted.
Yeah.
I don't know. The last time I went to both a mall and an amusement park, I was like, this is the worst experience I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to revisit those moments and maybe find the joy in them. Like, I mean, I don't know. Thinking about the mall that is in my community, I'm on the fence.
Good.
Like, I don't know if it's
possible
to recreate that experience. But I do find myself hungering for like the mall of the mid 2000s when like you could go to Claire's and get your ears pierced, or go to Libby Lou's or Build a Bear, and then like go see Twilight and like, I don't know, live your best life. And then, I don't know, speaking of amusement parks, I said Dollywood. Obviously, I think
Of course.
I mean, that's the tragedy of all of this, is like what happened to Dolly Parton.
I know. Is she okay?
I like to believe that she's got her own private stock on an island, like,
Probably.
though I don't think she'd leave us high and dry because she's Dolly Parton, so she might actually not have survived the apocalypse, but I don't want to think about that. Anyway, Dollywood. I think Ellie and Joel would have loved Dollywood.
I love that.
So Caitlin, on a scale of 1 to 5 times you cry this episode, probably.
I like that that's just our, like, we can't come up with anything else. We're like, we all probably cried this episode. Hilariously, not hilariously, but like this, I think this was the most I cried in any episode so far. Like, I cried a lot in all of the parts that of course I cried, but there was this episode, it was just consistent tears. And it's because I knew where it was going, and it was just, it hurt all that much more, to the point where my dad told me this morning, he goes, yeah, I looked over at you last night and I could feel like you like shaking. So I looked over and I could just see you sobbing. And I'm just like, I'm trying to pay attention to the show, but I'm like, is she okay? Is everything okay? And like at one point he was just like, are you good? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Like, just continue. Just watch the show. Like, we all know how this is. So on a scale of 1 to 5 times that I most for sure cried, no one is surprised. 5 out of 5. This will like, not to spoil the next 2 episodes rating, but those are probably going to be 5s as well, because my God, this show is so good.
I also said 5. I feel like for me it's more because I want to reserve my 5s for like things that make me go wee woo woo, but then it's like I can't find any reasons to take away points, so I'm like, this is just a good episode. So
there's been nothing.
Another 5 in my book. I loved this episode. I loved the girlhood of it all. So, yeah, no complaints here.
No complaints here.
Thank you for listening to Live by Moonlight. Tune in next week when we review episode 8 of The Last of Us, When We Are in Need. ... There's no ... but you know. ...
Caitlin's gonna cry on her birthday.
Yeah, ... Caitlin cries on her birthday.